Okay, guys. I apologize about that. My audio, I don't know why my audio wouldn't work there, but alas, I had to restart my computer in order to make it work. So now it's working. At least it seems like it's working. So yeah, sorry for the delay. It has been quite a while since I've actually done a live video. Um Life, baby, everything crazy busy. The kid having a baby, uh, always makes everything interesting. Okay. Der Birolage says, but now you sound good. So there you go. Very good. Um, it makes everything crazy having a baby and all that kind of fun stuff. But my work is actually quite intense right now. I work for, I would call it a large company, but it's not large compared to a lot of other companies. I have like 50 to 70 employees, and it's like but we're moving the company, like moving. And we have tonnage of machines to move, so it's just been insane. So I got a hankering today. I was like, you know what? I should do something live. It's been a while since I've done something live. Let's do something live. I had to go out and get my wife and mother-in-law some cake and ice cream because they deserve it, because they're very good people. And I found this on the shelf. 2019 Brooklyn Black Ops. This is their Select Barrel Four Roses small batch one. I have not had this before. It's a 100% bottle fermented stout aged in Four Roses bourbon barrels. First Imperial Stout is what this beer is. And I thought, you know what? Let me grab this because I just want to grab it. And I went, wait a minute. Why don't we do a live review? Because it's been so long since we've done a live review. So we're going to drink this. We're going to wait a minute, let people kind of filter in, give it a couple minutes. Once we get a couple people in here, there's like 15, 16 people in here now. We'll move on. So yeah. Before we dive into this, a couple things. Kiddo is fantastic. He's grown like weed. He's awesome. He's the best. Beer wise, I've been slowing down on beer reviews, even though I'm starting to post stuff. And maybe about a month or so, you might start seeing me post less. Maybe not every single day. But I'll try to keep that up as best as I can. I did last week, a week and a half ago, I did a how I got into beer kind of thing series, and I'm going to keep that going. The next one is going to be it's going to be like an step by step, like I got into beer, and then how I traversed all the way to today's kind of date. So I have the next one coming up soon. If you have not checked out the podcast in a while, check it out. I posted a bunch of podcasts and I stopped for a little bit, and then I just did one with Jeff Alworth of the Beer Bible fame. He's an amazing, fantastic dude, and I was lucky enough to actually grab him for the podcast. Actually, not lucky enough. I'm lucky enough to have good people in my life that help me out with such things. John Hall from I always want to say All About Beer. He hasn't been there for a while. From the Beer Edge and his podcast, he was kind of kind of helping him with his Northeast start of the tour, and he actually texted me straight. He's like, hey, so when you want me to grab Jeff for your podcast, because he's an awesome dude like that. So we sat down at Bomb Place, had a really great time, and it's probably one of my more favorite. It's still not, it's not Kimmich level podcast. That's my favorite one of all time, but it was probably might be second. Just such a good dude. I did kind of syndicate that on the YouTube channel, so you can watch it there, because I actually had video of that on top of it. Yeah, go check out the podcast version if you haven't. The clicks help, and subscribe and all that kind of fun stuff. And yeah, I think that pretty much brings us up to date. I mean, we're in October now. We're going to start getting into like kind of holiday season, snowy season. So you're going to start seeing maybe a little bit more stuff like this, a little bit more stout, a little bit more darker beer, richer beer, holiday beer, stuff like that. Have a couple different collaboration reviews that need to be done. We have a mystery beer by Steven. If you don't know Steven, that's weird, because he sends amazing beer mails to everybody in my kind of group of beer people, Wooden Nerd Sense guys, No Hype, Keith 93 Lumber, all that kind of stuff. He has a mystery beer that is all of us are chomping at the bit to do. We just have to coordinate that. So that'll be coming up hopefully soon. And at the same time, we do a joint barley wine, the same group of people, 93 Lumber, Nerd Sense, No Hype. We do a joint kind of barley wine review it's almost like every quarter, every 2 or 3 months. And we have a collab barley wine. It was a Jay Wakefield, somebody else, I think. Barley wine, Evil Twin, maybe, or Trillium. I don't know. I forget what it is, but I have it in my fridge. And we're going to coordinate that one. So that'll be another joint review coming up. But enough talk. Let's dive into sucker. Oddly enough, I grabbed this today, being like, I want to do something with it. It's a 2019 version, so it's not like a super old beer. But I was like, it'll be cool to revisit Black Ops. Yeah. I've never actually reviewed Black Ops. I've done a bunch of Brooklyn beers. I've done a bunch of Brooklyn 750s. I did an old stock ale not too long ago, a month or so ago. I've done a bunch of beers out of these 750s. I've never actually done Black Ops. I've had it several times. I haven't had the Four Roses barrel version, so I'm kind of pumped to dive into it. So let's grab my trusty stout glass. I already read on the front most of the stuff. It's their Four Roses Small Batch Edition 2019, 12.4%. On the back here, what does it say? It says Brooklyn Black Ops is a legend. It's very, very humble beer. We neither confirm or deny its existence. However, if it did exist, it would be a robust stout originally concocted by the Brooklyn Brewing team under the cover of secrecy and hidden from everyone else at the brewery. Supposedly, this vintage of Black Ops is aged for months. Not 4 months, but 4 months, FOR, in Four Roses barrel, small batch bourbon barrels, and then re-fermented with champagne yeast, creating a big chocolate coffee notes with a rich underpinning of vanilla-like oak. Is Black Ops real? We can't say, but we think you'll love it. So there you go. I dig the re-fermentation on champagne yeast, especially in a Russian Imperial Stout. I like a lively mouthfeel with my Russian Imperial Stouts, and champagne yeast should do that. Let's give you guys some audio porn, ASMR edition. No, you can't hear anything. Anyway, so let's take a peek at the cork. It popped off really nice, but hopefully it's nicely carved. Brooklyn Brewery. Don't smell any TCA, so that's a bonus. Let's get this sucker poured here. Let's see what we got going on. Give it a rough pour. I'm not detecting a lively carbonation here. It doesn't seem flat by any stretch of the imagination. But let's give this sucker a platform to sit on. Ooh, fruit flies. I got. So my wife, it's not my wife's fault. But she loves to that's way too high. What am I doing here? She loves to mess with flowers. Is that the way you put it? And plants. And she's been bringing them all in before the frost hits, because it's getting quite cold here. And she's brought in a crazy amount of gnats. I want to say gnats because they're not fruit flies in the traditional sense, because they're not really attracted to fruit fly like the beer or fruit fly traps. So I think they're mold gnats or whatever. So I got a bunch of them flying around, so I apologize. But as far as this beer goes, I mean, it definitely looks the part of a big, rich stout. It has a nice little soft kind of toffee caramel kind of head to it. You can see there, not much of a head, but it's definitely there. And it's dark. I mean, I'm sitting in a relatively dark room. I have some lights up, but you cannot see through that sucker. It has a little bit more of a browner kind of hue to it, so it comes off a little bit more barley wine than anything else as far as visual. Aged barley wine, but looks like a big beer nonetheless. Let's see if we can get a nose. I mean, it smells like a bourbon barrel aged stout. Now you're going to be like, no shit, Sherlock. That's what it is. There's a lot of people that, make bourbon barrel aged stouts or make any beer, insert any beer here with these things, and they don't smell like that. So it's not so much a given that a beer is going to smell like a nice, rich bourbon barrel aged stout. it could be super boozy, which this may have been at one point, but 2 years down the road, it's definitely not the case. There is a richness, there's a booziness to the nose, but it's not heftier over the top. There's a big, huge chocolate component. That's why I'm leaning heavily into a stout thing here. A rich chocolate, like a rich. So definitely, Mike Kanza asked for the ABV on this. This is 12.4%, brother. They vary from year to year. This is the 2019 edition, so every year they change a little bit different, but it doesn't smell like it's 12% and change. A lot of these beers, when they get up there in that 13%, 14% range, you're like, oh man, that's huge beer. It has heft to it. You know it's a bigger beer, but it's not hyper aggressive. It's not like something that you're like, oh my god, this is gonna knock me on the ass. It has this nice rich chocolate component to it, a little bit of soft, actually a decent amount of vanilla in it. I assume that's coming from the barrel. That Four Roses spirit definitely shows up, but not in a hot or huge kind of alcohol blow off, kind of crazy ethanol kind of way. It actually smells like a really nice balance between barrel and beer. Because you're definitely getting that rich kind of big malted portion of the beer, but you're also getting a nice spirit component in here. You're getting a nice barrel off of it. That vanilla is there. It's lacking a little bit of charry kind of coconutty vibes that I typically like in my big bourbon barrel aged stouts, but it definitely has the makings of something that's quite beautifully violent. Let's put it that way. So yeah, rich chocolates on the nose, big vanilla on the nose, nice spirit component in there. And it comes off like creepily drinkable, like almost like this might be like danger beer. Only one way to find out. Cheers. Okay, that's a little bit hotter than I thought it was gonna be. It's not like undrinkable hot, but there is a zip to the spirit. There actually is a hefty, big bittering component to this. I think it's a combination of malt. I think a big roasted kind of bittering kind of maltiness to this in combination with the way the hops kind of come off in this beer. There's definitely a aggressive hopping to this. It's a Russian Imperial Stout base. It's going to have a bittering component. When you combine those hops and you combine that kind of astringent kind of maltiness, it definitely comes off bigger bittering than I thought it would be, but not like, I wouldn't call it a bitter beer. It just has a more bittering presence than I thought I'd get based off of the nose. It is a little bit thin for what it wants to be, what it should be. Well, you know, you're talking about 12.5% Russian Imperial Stout. You know, you kind of want a bit of density here, and while it's not thin, it's thinner than what it should be. The star of the show here is actually the Four Roses barrel. It is not just bourbon barrel. It tastes like Four Roses. You know, if you've ever had Four Roses spirit before, I think it's more one of the more distinct flavors when it comes to spirits. I'm not a bourbon connoisseur by any stretch of imagination, but from what bourbon I have had, I think Four Roses is one of the more unique spirit flavors in the bourbon line, and this is showing up in this in spades. Yeah, it's a nice beer, man. It's a very, very nice beer, and it showcases the Four Roses quite nicely. It is really just, and I mentioned it in my kind of like, pretty much sums it all up. He says, "Oh, thin as a killer for me on an Imperial Stout," and it's not thin, and I want to express it. It's thinner than what it should be. It's not thin, but that's kind of the thing with me too. I expect a baseline level of density when it comes to Imperial Stouts, but especially kind of these bourbon barrel ones. I know it tends to be a little bit kind of, stouts can become a bit thinner in a barrel, so it comes off with a little bit thinner kind of mouthfeel to it. Now, for all full disclosure, it is a champagne yeast. So you are going to get a little bit more of an aggressive carbonation. You usually will. I'm not getting a super aggressive carbonation on this beer, but that tighter champagne carbonation can lead to a perceptionally thinner mouthfeel, and that's what I think is actually happening here. I think it's what they chose to bottle carbonate it, bottle ferment it with, was really what caused that relative thinness. It's not a thin beer. I keep wanting to express it. It's not thin. It's just thinner than what it should be. And it's just honestly just a really tasty well done beer. Listen, you know, when I picked this up today, I picked this up for a specific reason. And that was, I kind of wanted a barrel-aged stout. I don't have any barrel-aged stouts in my house right now. I haven't actually had a barrel-aged stout in my house for, I think, quite a bit. To be honest with you, I don't remember the last time I had one. You know, I've had barley wines here and there. I've had stouts here and there, and adjunct-based stouts, but I haven't just had a, you know, core 4 beer barrel done stout. And wow, it's probably been a month or two at least. So that is kind of what I wanted. And I'm getting that here. You know, I'm getting a bourbon barrel aged stout. It just comes off with that kind of plucky, kind of effervescent kind of carbonation that makes it come off a little bit thinner. And but in the end, the one cool thing about it, and that's weird because my remembrance, what I remember of Black Ops is thin is not usually what it is. I don't know if they usually do the yeast, champagne yeast carbonation on these, but I think that really does show. The more I kind of keep talking about that carbonation on here, that champagne really does make sense in here, and even from a drying standpoint, because it's a sweeter beer and that spirit definitely shows up, but it doesn't finish really cloying in any form or fashion. It actually ends up being quite snappy and dry towards the end, and I think that's a combination of a higher alcohol kind of burn off, but in combination with that oak tannins too, but in combination with that champagne yeast, that just adds this level of dryness to it that makes it kind of creepily drinkable. I can drink this whole thing probably in an hour and be like, oh shit, what did I just do? That kind of thing. You know, that one beer where you just sip on it and go, this is pretty good. I like this. This is not great, but pretty good. And then you look and you're like, oh shit, I drank that whole bottle. That's kind of where this beer kind of lands for me. I think it's getting a little bit, I was going to say, I think it's getting a little bit cooler as it warms up. It's a great choice of words. It wasn't super cold, but since I bought it only a couple hours ago, I put it in my fridge instead of my beer fridge. So it might have been just a skosh colder. It doesn't feel that cold. Yeah. But because I think this is almost something, if you had one of these in your cellar, you might want to pop them at cellar temp. I think that might alleviate a little bit of those mouthfeel issues and just bring a little bit more robustness to the beer. But it's a fun beer. It's a $23 beer. It's a little bit pricier than I typically want to spend on something of this ilk, but I kind of wanted something. I wanted something with a little bit of time on it. 2 years old, bourbon barrel aged stout. It was worth picking up. And honestly, instead of just kind of like negatively leaning into this beer, because that's kind of how I feel. I'm doing this beer a little bit dirty. I'm kind of being like, it's kind of meh. It's actually really quite tasty. This is a Russian Imperial Stout. I taste that in a barrel. I taste oak tannins are there. Vanilla's there. It's starting to get a little charry thing going on, but nothing too crazy. In Four Roses, it tastes like Four Roses. Like it doesn't taste like bourbon. It tastes like Four Roses bourbon. I want to express that explicitly. So it's doing everything it says on a champagne yeast. It definitely comes off as a champagne carbonated beer. It's doing exactly what it advertised. And honestly, I think that is few and far between when it comes to a lot of breweries nowadays. Charles B chimes in saying, any bourbon barrel aged stouts you enjoy? Oh yeah, man, I enjoy quite a bit. You know, there's some really great ones. You know, if you're gonna stop, you know, you'd always talk about Bourbon County. That's always a fantastic beer. And he actually follows up, the best bourbon barrel aged stouts I have seen you done are the Rev Down the Rabbit Hole series. Those are fantastic. You know, cheap ones, man. You want to talk about cheap, great bourbon barrel stouts? I mean, Dragon's Milk is always fantastic. You know, there's a lot of beers from breweries that are quite tasty and quite nice that just don't get that kind of love. And there's a lot of rare stuff that comes off pretty cool. And here in New Jersey, we have a couple breweries that really crush it on the bourbon barrel aged stout tip. You know, Kane with their Night and Old Dawns, and even outside of that, there are a lot of different beers they do. Stout wise, tend to be quite fantastic. Barrel aged. Trying to think of bourbon barrel aged stouts that are really just my favorites of all time. I mean, old school Bourbon County. I mean, Bourbon County even today is fantastic. Who's done some really good? Block 15, Block 13 on the West Coast. They do really great stuff. Crux out that way too. I've had some great bourbon barrel aged stuff. Let's look at the wall. Yeah, you know what was really good? I love this beer, and I haven't had it in forever. This is Mexican hot chocolates, oak aged Russian Imperial Stout. This is La Cumbra. It's their Cumbra Brewing, La Cumbra. It's their La Negra. That beer was fantastic. You want to talk about a great bourbon barrel aged stout? What else? There's got to be stuff up here. Nanyo's bourbon barrel aged stouts are fantastic. Firestone Walker makes great bourbon barrel aged stouts. Had some great Hill Farmstead ones. There's great ones all over the place. So yeah. Let's see. Dur saying, Cuvée de Fin from the Belgian Distruce. It's also 4 rose barrels. I love Struce. I mean, Black Albert for me. Black Albert is the king shit of fuck mountain of Russian Imperial Stout. You're talking about this Russian Imperial Stout. We're not talking about barrel aging here, but Black Albert is by far and away the best Russian Imperial Stout on earth. Like if someone asked me to make a list of the 10 best Russian Imperial Stouts, I'll be like, okay, it's Struce 1, then 2 and 3 are blank. Then let's just throw Courage in there at 4, and then let's leave 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 blank, and then we'll pick it up from there. That's how much I love Black Albert. So I mean, I've had a bunch of Struce, and he's saying that one Cuvée de Fin is Black Albert and barrel stout version, which is fantastic. I might have had it, honestly. I've only reviewed Black Albert. I've had several of Struce's barrel-aged beers, but they've always been when I'm out adventuring, at a bottle shop or at a bottle share, and it's not something that I'm spending proper time with from the lack of a better term. It's more like, oh, this is fantastic, what's up next, that kind of thing. And that would be one of my things. Like if I ever went to visit Struce, went over to Europe and I came back, if I bought beers over there, I'd definitely pick up some of the Struce barrel-aged stuff. I'd love to pick up some of the Struce distillate, the beer distillate, the stuff that comes in little bottles, and review them in long form, like really do long form format on those, like actually crack a chilled bottle of it and drink 4 ounces and then leave and come back 20 minutes later, drink 4 ounces, then leave and keep talking about it in each iteration until it warms up to room temperature and see where it travels to. I think that would be one of the better ones, because I think Struce in their beers in general, I think they deserve it, man, because it's just, I love them. Anyway, Charles saying, have you ever had a bottle fall off the wall and shatter before? These are all empties, man. So nah, this is pretty sturdy stuff here. This is none of that. It's screwed to the wall, so it's not going anywhere. Have I broken shit before? Absolutely. I'm a fucking Neanderthal, so I break shit all the time. Corey Trevin, what's going on, homie? Says, nice BBA stouts are my favorite. Love me some Bourbon County. I mean, honestly, you're really, AB InBev aside, and the whole kind of you're giving money into big beer. You grab one of those, unless it was on top of somebody's heater and treated absolutely horrifically, it's always going to be fucking fantastic. Like this year's Bourbon County was one of my favorites of all time. So, yeah, take that for what it's worth. Charles saying, ever try Avery Czar? I actually love Avery Czar. That's a great one. I haven't had that in a very long time. If you actually go back into my beer reviews, I'm pretty sure if it's not my beer reviews, look up NEPA, an acronym, Northeast PA, NEPA beer reviews. I know I did an aged Avery Czar with him. I don't know if I posted it on my channel or his channel. We did that probably 5-6 years ago, and it was already 5 or 6 years old at the time. But no, Avery Czar is actually a really. No, I've done a bunch of Avery Czars on my channel too. No, I'm wrong. I was thinking of Marshall Zukov of Cigar City. But no, I have done the Avery Czar with my buddy Joe and all that stuff. Anyway, yes, I've had it. And I think it's quite fantastic. Window beer review by Thomas saying hi, everybody. What's going on, brother? You're up late. Cheers. So there you go. I mean, this is a really tasty beer. I'm not going to sit here and say it's the best barrel-aged stout I've ever had in my life. But the combination of its drinkability and it's really hyper expressive Four Roses barrel, which is like spot on exactly what Four Roses tastes like, but still the beer is still a big star portion of the show. It's fantastic. I you know, in a perfect world, this bottle's $15 to $18. You know, it's Brooklyn. It's a little pricier. I'm not angry I bought it, but you know, will I buy another one? Who knows? We'll see. But it's a tasty beer nonetheless. There you go. There you go. A little bit of technical difficulties at the beginning because I'm running Windows 11 on all my machines right now, so I think I'm just going to chalk it up to Windows 11. But we got back on track. And now we're done. That's how beer reviews work. They don't go on forever. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this live review as much as I did. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Yeah. If you know any of these barrel-aged jammers or any kind of beer you want me to do live and review, let me know. If I can get it, I will try. Keep an eye out for some of those collab reviews I talked about at the beginning. I will post my next kind of massive beer musings coming up within the next week. And hopefully you guys are just having a great Sunday. I mean, you know, I hung out with my son all day and made my world famous gourmet hamburgers and for my family and provided for my family. And I'm tired, actually. I woke up in the middle of the night to watch Fury Wilder, so I'm a little bit tired. So this helps. Anyway, I'm gonna stop complaining. I'm drinking good beer, talking to good people. And Mike leaving it for thanks for that, man. Be good and keep them coming. I will, brother. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this little live stream. Hopefully you're enjoying some good beer right now. Hopefully you're enjoying a little bit of American football. And hopefully see you next time. Cheers.